What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. The NFL draft, the NFL Combine is a week away. The NFL draft, like I just said, is about 2 weeks away. And my mock 2.0 just came out. So let's talk about it. Jimmy, start us up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Do the Titans have a miracle left in them in what has been a magical season to this point? Going to be fielded by Lorenzo Neal at the 25. Pitches it back to Wycheck. He throws it across the field to Dyson.
He's got something.
30,
He's got
40,
something.
50.
He's got it.
40.
He's got it.
20. 10.
He's got it.
End zone. Touchdown Titans. There are no flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled a miracle.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast. Sick! It's going to be sick.
What's going on, everybody? We got Vincent back as a brand new father. What's going on, buddy?
No, I was here for the Kevin Dyson show. I was a father. Yeah, I was a father then. I'm just been a father a bit longer now.
Listen, you got the time to do it, so you got to do it.
Baby girl sleeping through the night now. Thank you, God. Yeah, everything's good. Can't complain. Obviously, no one knows better than you with 3 kids. You know, when you have an infant, your clock rolls around them. So unfortunately, I haven't been on as of late since the Dyson show, but I am back tonight. Just put the baby down to bed. So more than happy to be back. And I want everyone to know, even though I'm not on the show, I'm always in constant contact, always breaking balls in the group chat. You know
Absolutely.
how we're the United States is going to have to beat the 51st state in Canada tonight in the hockey tournament going on. So I'm sorry,
Yes, 4 nations.
have to put down a beat down on our sick podcast Canadian buddies. But
Yeah, absolutely.
other than that though, I'll let you lead off because I'm been out of the loop a little bit. So you lead and I'll follow. So what's been going on? I know I've been talking a lot of shit on Twitter about not wanting a quarterback and taking Abdul or trading back. So tell me how you feel about it and I'll follow up.
Well, just going back to the Super Bowl. I mean, your mind changes constantly as a Titans fan, especially us. If we're deranged Titan fans and everybody watching, who knows? Because we all want that one position. But after watching the Super Bowl, right? Who won that? Who and why did they win the Super Bowl? It was the line, the offensive line. They averaged 6'6", 340 for the Philadelphia Eagles, and their defensive front. It was a 4-man rush all night, and they just got after Patrick Mahomes. I get it. How do you want to build in the front? Okay. Now, when people see mock drafts, like my mock one, and then we're going to talk about the mock draft in a little bit, you don't have to always build in the draft at most point. We did the last 2 years. We solidified the left-hand side. Okay. We have the center now. Okay. But they want to talk about drafting and developing guys now. And then you have one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. Now they have him under a year now. Let them develop. Let Bill develop these guys on the left-hand side, and let's bring some veterans in on the right-hand side. Maybe a developmental guy in the draft. Who knows? But I'm sick and tired of the second-year offensive lineman. The second-round offensive lineman. I don't want to do that no more. You got a nice Trey Smith at right guard. You can plug him in right then and there, and we can go on and on. So that's what I'm saying. Drafting line and starting with line and going back to the defensive line with the defensive front. I understand Abdul and all these other edge guys are good, right? The edge.
Yeah, he could be great.
He could be great. Yes, absolutely. But you know what? Even if we did trade back a little bit and we could possibly still get Abdul or whatever, there's still a lot of talent on the edge that we can get early in the second round. And who knows? We may even, if guys are falling, we may try to trade back a little bit to gain more picks. I don't know what this regime is going to do, but I'm starting to think after all, just starting to realize week in and week out and just starting to watch videos and highlight clips of these guys week in and week out, because that's what I'm doing. I'm bored as hell. There's no football besides the only exciting thing that's going on right now is USA Canada in the 4 nations right now. But the more I think about it, Vin, I was team trade back a little bit to get Abdul or even draft Abdul at 1. But the more I dig into Cam Ward, it's more evident that we can't pass on this guy. And I watched a lot of highlights and tape on Cam Ward. He gets the ball out quick. He manipulates the pocket. He can get out of the pocket. He's a fifth-year starter. That says a lot. Jaden Daniels was in college a lot. Bo Nix was in college a lot. And Cam Ward can follow those footsteps and
Brock Purdy played a lot of college
football. And take that next step for us. In next year's season. I'm not saying we're going to go to an AFC Championship game, but if they're talking generational talent and they want their signal caller at 1 week, and he turns into a Jaden Daniels, we can't pass that up at that point. So that's why after your piece, that's why I'm going to give you my piece. It's back-to-back mock drafts right now for me that I'm not trading back, and I'm drafting Cam Ward, who I think is the best quarterback and maybe not best player in the draft, but definitely a position of absolute need. It's like 1A and 1B and 1C for me with Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and Abdul Carter.
Yeah, I mean, listen, do I ultimately think we'll probably end up sticking and picking at 1? And it'll probably will be Cam Ward. Yeah, I think that's what we'll end up doing. But if it was up to me, I would probably draft Abdul Carter at 1 if you stay there, or trade back. You had brought up the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's not get it twisted. The Eagles have the best roster in the NFL. Yeah, they won that game because they got after Mahomes. But top to bottom, they're loaded with talent. Both lines, offensively, skill position players. I mean, they put a secondary together in a year, it seems like, with a bunch of rookies and made it work. So shout out to them. A lot of happy people around my way, obviously. But I'm just not in love with either quarterback. In my opinion, unless you have a Joe Burrow type prospect, I think it's completely okay to trade back and load up on picks when you have a lot of holes, which I ultimately think we do, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That being said, you obviously need a signal caller. And I think what we might do in free agency is going to dictate what we do in the draft. You don't know what they're thinking. They're thinking if they want to compete, this year, maybe they go after a Matthew Stafford. Maybe they go after, Rodgers. And, you have Tony Pollard. You have Tajay Spears. You have Calvin Ridley. Chiggs kind of, has the ability but hasn't really grown into the potential that we all thought he would. So you really don't know what they're going to do until we go into free agency. If we go into free agency and we don't go after a bridge quarterback, obviously I think we'll go quarterback. Cam Ward's a big guy, athletic, can put the ball in a lot of different places. But I don't know. I'm just not in love with him. And I'm not saying there has to be a Joe Burrow type prospect to draft a quarterback at 1, but I think both of them are hit or miss, Shador and Cam Ward. And I think if you can get a guy like Abdul Carter, and I think we all can agree that his ceiling and his style of play mimics, a Micah Parsons. If you can get an outside edge guy along with Sweat and Simmons on the inside, and maybe you keep Landry on the outside as well. And now you have a 4-man front that's pretty vicious, and you saw what you could do when you can upset a quarterback and get in his face. You can make the best of quarterbacks uncomfortable. Yep. Look at all the Super Bowls that the great quarterbacks lost. Yep. Tom Brady against the Giants, they rushed the shit out of him. Patrick Mahomes against the Bucks, against the Eagles, they rushed the shit out of him. Peyton Manning against the Seahawks, they disrupted that game from the first play of the game. It was a safety. So I think the only way to stop an elite quarterback is to get in his face. And I just think Micah Parsons has the potential to be – Abdul Carter has the potential to be an elite pass rusher along with Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat, Harold Landry. And I don't know. To me, if you're sticking and picking, yeah, maybe you gamble and go after the quarterback. But Abdul Carter is as sure of a thing as you'll find in this draft. I'm not married to him, though. I mean, I would personally, I would love to find a buyer like that hypothetical trade we saw with the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I'm sorry to cut you off. You can go. If that's the case, you can't pass that trade up.
No, I mean, if you can get a first this year, a first next year, and then I think it was their next 3 years, second round picks this year, next year, and another year, their second round pick, then I think you have to do that because I think you can get a guy like McMillan or Macmillan, however you pronounce it, the receiver from Arizona, where the Jets are picking, I believe, which is what, 9. Either way, you could still get a blue chip guy at a premier position and load up on picks. And, that's what I would like to do. We'll see. It's a lot of smoke screens. You heard Borgonzi saying we can't, pass up, we want to build on the line. We're not going to pass up a generational talent.
Jets are 7, by the way. I'm sorry.
But we don't know what their definition of a generation talent is in this draft. Do they think it's Abdul Carter? Do they think it's Cam Ward? Listen, if they draft a quarterback, will I be mad? No. But there's so many times in the NFL where you draft a quarterback high because you need one and they don't pan out. And a lot of people say, well, you got to keep trying until you get one. Yeah, that's true. But you also can't pass up an elite talent at a premier position as well. And that's what I believe Abdul Carter is. I'm not a huge college football guy, but I watched their bowl games, man. That kid is a freak. And he was basically playing with one arm against Notre Dame, making plays. And I always say the most important things outside of a quarterback and protecting your quarterback is having the ability to attack the other team's quarterback. And I just feel like Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders come with a lot of question marks. And Abdul Carter doesn't really. I think we all know what he's going to be at the next level. And I don't think you could pass that up. Like I said, I won't be upset if they take a quarterback. I do think Cam Ward, I've watched, the highlights they're putting on Twitter. Like I said, I'm not a huge college football guy. But for what I've seen of Abdul Carter, to pass him up, a quarterback prospect would almost have to be like a Joe Burrow type to Justin Herbert or, Jaden Daniels type prospect, Caleb Williams, Drake May to pass up Abdul Carter, which I just don't think either quarterback is. So that's my piece. I'm not here to argue with people on Twitter or on this, but my opinion is Abdul Carter's ceiling is Michael Parsons, and I don't think you could pass that up when the two top quarterbacks, are basically, in my opinion, both coin flips.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people talk about that, and like I said, I've done a lot because we are the number one pick. We start this whole draft if we don't trade, and there are quarterbacks up there. So and we're in need of one. So that's why I'm looking into these two particular quarterbacks a lot now. Now, if you look at the history before we get into the mock draft now, Cam Ward went to Incornate Ward or whatever, however you say it. Then he went to Washington State, and then he transferred over to Miami. Okay, he killed it in Ward. He killed it in Washington State, but he needed to prove himself more going into the draft at Washington State because Washington State is just a regular school. It's nothing crazy. He needed to go to Miami and show that he can win. He's won at all three. Okay. And he's proved it now with Miami. Besides the bowl game and not winning the ACC, he won. Okay, and that's not solely on them. I mean, Miami was putting up points at will this year on offense. So I mean, not everything it was on Cam Ward, and same thing with Shedeur Sanders. He won in high school. He won at JSU, and then he took over the absolute worst college football program in Colorado and brought them into the top 25. I mean, so that says a lot for both of those quarterbacks. So, I mean, does it ring a bell for the GMs in the NFL to see how their stories collide and to see what they brought to those programs? I don't know, but that just to bring that to light, I mean, these guys are playing pretty well, but can it pan out in the NFL? I don't know. But with that said, let's drop the I dropped the 2.0 podcast. I mean, the mock draft yesterday. So let's take a look at this. Jimmy, if you could put that up. Again, this one was with trades. The first one I didn't do with trades. So I stuck with Cam Ward. Okay. And obviously there's a need at quarterback. And at 35, had the option to get edge. Didn't like the options there, especially with the wide receiver from Ohio State, Abuku there. So I had to take him. Vim, I mean, I know you
for a
don't.
while.
What?
That's been your boy for a while.
He has been, and he's been undershadowed there now because he has Jeremiah Smith there, and then he had Garrett Wilson, and all these other guys. He balled out with C.J. Stroud. So I mean, I thought this was going to be the best Ohio State wide receiver that ever came out at the time when he was a freshman, and then here comes Jeremiah Smith, who absolutely killed it this year. So I mean, by all means, if he's there at 35, I'm running to the podium. I'm not even taking no trades at all for that, because a wide receiver is a premier position for us, especially.
Absolutely.
Now, I got a lot of heat for this now, okay? Porter at 103 and Kobe Bryant at 165. That's two cornerbacks in the top 165 picks. Why am I doing that? Like you said, if you're building secondary, okay, just like the Philadelphia Eagles and these guys, Porter is an absolute savage press man corner. Okay, he's tall at 6'2". He's a tall corner. He's in your face. And same thing with Kobe Bryant, who actually absolutely showed out at the ball game and is nasty in the run game. Okay, Nick Nash was technically the Triple Crown winner in the wide receiver at the wide receiver position, better than Travis Hunter, put up way better numbers. But he's the subject of playing at a small school in San Diego State. And Cody Simon, if you watched any of Ohio State in the playoffs, he is a Jersey guy from Union City. So, I mean, this kid is all over the football field, an absolute stud at linebacker. So to get something like that at a position of need from us, a true leader of the Ohio State defense, you got to go with there at that point. And then obviously, if you want to go down the line, you want a developmental offensive lineman. You have Seth. You have Damian Martinez, who absolutely killed it too with a lot of touchdowns. He's a big-time running back from Miami. And then I had to throw my boy in there, Ryan Fitzpatrick. He does have the most points in FSU history. So, I mean, he is a clutch kicker. So, and we need one, okay, because Folk ain't going to be there forever, and we're all searching for one. So people are trying to say, oh, you got to take the Pittsburgh kicker if he was there. He wasn't there at the time. That's why I went Fitzpatrick. And Cam Jackson, he had a solid senior season on the Florida defensive line. He's an absolute unit, by the way, on that defensive line. So if you just want to keep building with Jeffrey Simmons and Sweat and everything, by all means, you could do it. I mean, people can criticize anything they want, but I think this is a pretty solid 2.0 draft. Now, I mean, you're saying that there's still holes that need to be filled. Like I said, we don't know these holes. I mean, this mock draft and all these other mock drafts can change once free agency comes out, like you said, Vin. I mean, if they're going to go after Trey Smith, there may not be a need to go lineman again, in a draft. Or if they're going to go in free agency, bam, offensive guard, right guard, and right tackle, who knows? But
I do like Nick Nash. I watched San Jose State's bowl game this year, and that kid made some plays, so I'm not against that at all. I know who Emeka. How do you pronounce that last name?
Buki.
I watched him play. I wouldn't be mad at that pick at all. Obviously, I don't think he'll get to the second round, or to the fifth pick in the second round. You never know. But like you said, and I said earlier, we really don't know what they're going to do until free agency hits. A lot of people seem to think we're going to get Trey Smith. I saw Zach Martin retire today. So obviously he's out of the question, but the question mark is quarterback. Do you go after a bridge guy, like a Derek Carr or an Aaron Rodgers? And maybe you're under the impression that even if you get Aaron Rodgers for a year, maybe you still draft Cam Ward.
Yeah, maybe
to let him sit behind and learn from someone like Aaron Rodgers. Or Derek Carr, who I don't think is that great, but obviously has played a lot of football in the league and has seen a lot of things. Any veteran quarterback is a good presence to have for a rookie quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I have no beef. So I don't want your boy Ryan Fitzgerald. I'm sticking with my boy Nick Folk until the leg falls off. I mean, he might be 50 years old kicking for us. I mean, I think he's missed like 3 kicks the last 2 years. It's pretty insane. I think he only missed 1 kick this year. But I mean, you would know better than I when it comes to college. But a few names that stick out are definitely Egbuka, Nick Nash, and Cam Ward. So we'll see what happens. I'm getting to the point where I'm getting a little like nervously anxious for it because it is around the corner.
You got the draft. You got the combine next week,
and you never know. Like when we traded with the Rams, it could happen tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
it could happen 2 days before the draft. It could happen in the middle of March Madness. You don't know when that trade can happen if it does happen because. I remember I was interning at a physical therapy office when we traded the pick with the Rams, and I remember just getting notifications on my phone. It was early. It was like before 12 o'clock. And, I remember how excited I was because we got a haul for that pick.
Yep.
And I think if you can get a haul for this one, then you pull the trigger and pick up a couple extra ones, a couple extra twos. And I trust Borgonzi not only because he's a Paisan, but because he was part of building a championship roster in Kansas City. So we'll see what happens. If it was up to me, though, I've been on the record on Twitter. I think I started a lot of arguments. I tweeted something that said, remember when the Titans took Jake Locker over J.J. Watt because they needed a quarterback? And it got like 115,000 views, 650 likes, a shit ton of retweets. People were arguing over it. And I just think, listen, man, quarterbacks are always a sexy pick. It doesn't mean it's the right pick.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to pick the sure thing, and especially when that sure thing plays a premier position, in my opinion, the third, maybe second most important position behind a quarterback. And people are going to say, well, you just said quarterback's most important. Yes. When you have a prospect out there that is as close to a can't-miss thing as possible, like a Justin Herbert, like a Jaden Daniels, like a Drake May, like a Joe Burrow, they're few and far between those. So, maybe Cam Ward is that. I don't know. I think most people would tend to agree, though. It's pretty much a coin flip at best, in my opinion. So we'll see. We'll see. If it was up to me, trade the pick if you stay at 1. And I'm not saying trade the pick for anything, like the bullshit trade that they had with the Giants where we would trade swap picks and then get 2 third-round picks. Fuck that. I'd rather stay at 1, But if you can get a haul for this pick and pick up a couple extra 1s and 2s, then go for it. If not, if I'm sticking and picking, I'm going Abdul Carter, man. I'd love to see him in the two-tone blue alongside Jeffrey Simmons, Devondre Sweat. And even if you kept if you got rid of Harold Landry, you're going to have a shit ton of money in free agency to spend and maybe get another premier guy. But
Josh Sweat is still out there too. He's a free
going to
agent.
get a bag this year.
Yeah.
But even let's just say hypothetically you kept Landry, your edge rushers would be Landry and Abdul Carter. Interior, you would have Simmons and Sweat. I'd like us to re-sign Sebastian Joseph Day for a team-friendly deal. He was pretty solid this year. But, I mean, Landry and Carter on the edge with Sweat and Simmons in the middle, I mean, you could really wreak havoc in my opinion. But I understand the argument for a quarterback because if you hit on one, great things could happen. The Redskins prove that. And we're in a division that's very winnable. The Jaguars are up in the air. The Texans obviously are good.
But they're shaky, though.
Yeah, they are shaky. They proved that they are beatable. They dealt with a slew of injuries at the end of the year, so it's hard to fault them. And they hung in there with Kansas City as well in that divisional round. But it's a winnable division, so if you feel as though you're a quarterback away from competing in this division, have at it. If we draft Cam Ward, I'll be one of his biggest fans. I really don't want Shedeur Sanders and that media shit show that comes with it. They've won everywhere they've went, yes, but Shedeur Sanders was the product of, I believe, a high passing percentage because, they did a lot of checkdowns, a lot of bubble screens, things like that. He also took a lot of sacks, which helped his, completion percentage. Instead of throwing it away, he usually just took the sack. But, listen, I'm not rooting against either player. I don't wish bad on anybody. I just think that if it's a quarterback, it's Cam Ward. But if it was up to me, I would try to move the pick for a haul or stick a pick at Abdul Carter. So, like the great Paulie Walnut said, I said my piece, Chrissy.
That's it, man. I mean, you're an Abdul Carter guy. I'm a Cam Ward guy. I know Sal tweeted it yesterday. He's a Cam Ward guy. So
Yeah, Sal flip-flops a lot, though.
We're all going to flip-flop right now.
During that bowl game, he was all out on Cam Ward when he just wanted that record and said, I want him nothing to do with him and this and that. And Sal's going to see this and text me and go, rah, 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 rah. You know.
I like the rah, 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 rah,
rah, rah. You know, but we love Sal. You know, if he ran the team, we would have at least 5 different staffs throughout the course of a year. But he's passionate, and that's why we love him. So, listen, whatever they do, obviously we're going to root for it. That's our team. But it's also getting to the point where like we were so good for a while and we had a window, and then we just fell off a cliff, and our star-studded players that we had with that core are gone. And it's kind of like I'll now believe we'll be good when I see it. Probably how Redskins fans felt like, you know, we've been up and down, up and down, up and down, and we got this shiny new quarterback. But, you know, when we start winning is when I'll believe it. And, you know, I think Jaden Daniels made a believer out of a lot of, you know, Commanders fans this year. So, you know, hopefully if we draft Cam Ward, he can do that for us. But it's a risky pick. So, you know, and you have to think, man, if you miss again, if Cam Ward struggles, and then what? Do you fire Brian Callahan? And then you're giving Cam Ward a second offensive coordinator in 2 years? Like my mind,
same rotation.
Yeah, my mind starts to like go on and on and on. Or if Callahan has another off year, do you have to stick with him again, just so there's some continuity within your organization? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a slippery slope. And to avoid that, I would pick one of the surest things in this draft, in my opinion, in Abdul Carter. So I don't know how many times I said Abdul Carter during the show, but
we know who you want, though.
You know what I want, man. I think if you can attack, I mean, how cool was it to watch Jalen Carter punch Patrick Mahomes in the face? I mean, it was awful. You know what I mean? It was great to see him get smacked in the face, and I feel like Abdul Carter has the ability to be a premier edge rusher in this league, and I'd love to see him smack the likes of the top-tier quarterbacks in the face. You know,
I mean, it was awesome, too, when we sacked Joe Burrow 9 times, you know, in that playoff game. But it just goes to show you, on the other side, you got to be able to move the ball with the quarterback. So, I mean, there's 2 positions right there that we need, and like you said, it's gonna be a coin flip. And I don't want to be in that decision room, because hopefully both of these players would pan out if we picked both of them, because it's a position of need and it's a position to build around for sure. But you know
what Joe Burrow couldn't escape in the Super Bowl? Aaron Donald.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not saying Abdul Carter's Aaron Donald, but you know, that lack of an offensive line, you know, finally caught up with him. And, you know, in that Super Bowl, you know, the clock struck midnight on Cinderella, and, you know, the Rams got after him, and that last play of the game was a play that a defensive lineman made to disrupt Joe Burrow. And as good as he is, he couldn't overcome that. So you can argue it every which way.
Oh, of course.
It doesn't mean that I'm right or you're right or RJ is right. You know, our boy on the Coliseum podcast, you know, he's a big Cam Ward guy. You know, we're all entitled to our opinions, you know, and we'll see what happens, you know. So
absolutely. I mean, I can't wait to see if both these guys are participating, or any of these guys participating, or even some of these other guys that are on the mock drafts, and, you know, next week at the combine, because that's going to give you a look at one of these guys that actually stand out and be like, damn, you know, we're going to talk about this guy in a couple of weeks, or even on a podcast. You know, that's where you sit down, you write these names down that actually show out, and you know, had a good bench press, had a good shuttle, had a good 40, you know, had good catches, you know, cone drills and everything. So I mean, that's why I like tuning into the combine. I can't wait for that, because right around the corner, then it's free agency, and then right around the corner comes a draft. So then we're in full gear into OTAs and then training camp, and we're right back into football season again. So we're right at the start of it again.
Stick and pick at one. I might stop watching after the first pick. We ain't gonna have to wait long this year, baby. We might be waiting 10 minutes, and we can call it a night. Or you never know. We might pull some Houston Texans shit. Trade back up into the top 10 and get both Cam Ward and Abdul Carter, and then everybody's happy.
Yeah, could you imagine that?
Oh God, man!
Can you imagine? My God,
Curious, man. Although we always find a way to argue with each other. It seems like on Titans Twitter, but
of course.
But at least we won't have to wait long for this draft. If we stick a pick, it won't. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next, next week in the combine and the next couple months because it's gonna. This I think off season is going to shape the next 5 to 10 years for the Tennessee Titans. Will we take a step up and hopefully get back to where we were, or are we going to stay a laughing stock, and go back to what we were, in the pre-Mariota days, you know what I mean, where we were just rotating quarterbacks and, nobody cared about us. Our fan base lost interest and, we'll see. So these next few months is going to, in my opinion, shape the next 5 to 10 years for this franchise and which way we're going.
You could not have said that any better because I wholeheartedly agree. With that said, you got anything else you want off your chest since you haven't been on the show in a while? I think we hit everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's really it. I'm going to try to get on more consistently now that the baby's sleeping through the night. If we can do these later shows, that'd be best for me. The three amigos haven't been together in a while. But I said my piece, and anyone who follows me on Twitter knows how I feel already. But, that's all I got to say about that.
All right, guys. Well, that's that. We're going to be on next week talking about, obviously, the Combine. The Combine starts next Thursday. So if anything spicy happens in between there, somebody jumps out, Cam Ward or Shador Sanders or Abdul Carter, anything pops up, we're going to be on. So we appreciate you guys again for listening. Catch us on Twitter, YouTube, and on Instagram. We've got a lot of good content coming up. So thank you again for everything. Please like, subscribe, and do everything.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.